Well, the country of Lebanon and people around the world today are marking 1 year since an explosion that killed more than 200 people and left thousands more injured. That blast devastating the capital city of Beirut, one of the largest ever non-nuclear explosions in history. It was caused by a fire in a warehouse which Lebanese authorities admit held a vast stockpile of a volatile chemical, and it happened in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic with the country in economic turmoil. A year later, and questions still remain, with critics saying the government has still not uncovered exactly what happened and why. Well, for more, let's reach out right now to Rebecca Collard. She joins us live from Beirut. Rebecca, good to see you. 1 year on since the blast. Talk to us about the mood in Lebanon, in Beirut itself today.
Yeah, Michael, things are actually very quiet this morning here in Beirut. I was just out on the street, and most of the shops in my neighborhood and restaurants are actually closed. And I think you can even see behind me, this is usually a very, very busy intersection. Usually at this time of day, there would be many cars trying to navigate this intersection. But today it's very quiet. People here are still very, very angry, Michael, because as you said, there is still really nobody has been held accountable for this blast. And the other thing is that this country in the last year, Michael, has sunk deeper and deeper into an economic crisis. The situation here is becoming worse and worse. Inflation has risen. The currency has lost 90% of its value. More than 50% of Lebanese people are believed to be below the poverty line. The price of food is up. There's very little electricity. We're getting 3 or 4 hours of government electricity today. Each day, and then generators just simply aren't able to make up for the rest of that lost electricity. So many times we're basically either sitting in the dark or sitting here without electricity. So I mean, I think all of that, both the fact that there has been no real justice for the victims of the blast, and also the fact that the Lebanese government essentially hasn't done anything to relieve this economic crisis, is creating a lot of anger.
Interestingly, no one has been held responsible for the blast. So talk to us about what's happening with the investigation now.
Yeah, and I think the answer to that is actually very, very little, Michael. Talking to people over the last few days that were affected in the blast, that lost loved ones and lost their homes, they are saying that they just don't think that the Lebanese government can investigate this crime because they hold the government responsible. There are still so many unanswered questions, Michael. How and why did the chemicals end up being left in Beirut's port? What exactly sparked the explosion? But one thing that is now very clear, Michael, is the fact that top Lebanese leaders, including the country's president and prime minister, knew that there were thousands of tons of explosive chemicals in a civilian port right next to these residential neighborhoods like mine, and they didn't do anything. Even as for 40 minutes this fire went on in the port, and this is something that many people have mentioned to me, they didn't know that there was these explosive chemicals in the port, but the leaders did, and even then they didn't tell people to evacuate. So there are still a lot of unanswered questions, Michael, and I think that also, as I said, is causing a lot of anger. But also, there is one thing that's clear, is that Lebanese leaders did know, Michael.